For years, American car fans laughed at BMW. Overpriced, underpowered, and all hype. While Detroit was dropping V8 powered monsters, BMW's so called ultimate driving machine was getting left in the dust. But in 1993, everything changed. BMW didn't just respond, they clapped back. The new 740i wasn't just a luxury cruiser anymore. It pulled hard, yet it handled like a sports car. So how did this sedan from Germany end up punching like an American muscle car? To find out, it's crucial we go back to 1986 when BMW had something to prove. Because that's when BMW had just rolled out the E32 7 Series. And let me tell you, this was a car loaded with technology for its time. Digital gauges, automatic climate control, and even an in-car phone. But underneath all that polish, there were a few gaps. The big one? Engine choices. The tried-and-true 3.5-liter engine was starting to show its age, so buyers basically had no other choice but to jump straight to the 5-liter V12. Now, sure, the V12 had a presence, but it was overcomplicated and expensive to maintain. BMW just didn't have the sweet spot, which was exactly what rivals Mercedes and Audi were starting to offer. And then, 1990 hit, and the whole luxury landscape shifted once more. Lexus came out swinging with the LS400, and it shook up the market in a way nobody saw coming. This was a V8-powered luxury sedan that was buttery smooth, dead reliable, and undercut the Germans on price. It didn't just impress, it outsold. BMW got caught sleeping, and just as they were trying to catch their breath, Mercedes dropped the W140 S-Class in '91. This sedan was a beast of a machine, packed with enough engineering to make an aircraft jealous. At that point, the message was loud and clear. If BMW wanted the 7 Series to stay in the fight, they had to raise their game, because the competition wasn't just getting better, it was evolving. But here's where BMW finally started turning things around. Back in the mid-'80s, they quietly worked on something new, a completely redesigned engine that would change the game. That engine was called the M60, and was a huge deal. By the time 1992 rolled around, it was finally ready for the spotlight. And that's when they introduced their brand new version of the 7 Series, called the 740i. This wasn't just a small update, it was a major upgrade. Why? Because BMW had finally brought back a V8 engine for the first time in over 25 years. But why was this important? Well, compared to the old engine, this new one was more powerful, smoother, and way more efficient. The M60 was built using lightweight materials and modern tech, which helped the car feel faster, quieter, and easier to drive. This finally gave BMW the muscle and refinement it had been missing. But it wasn't just the engine that got better. BMW also replaced the old 4-speed automatic with a brand new 5-speed automatic transmission. That meant smoother gear changes and quicker acceleration. So not only did the car feel stronger, it felt more comfortable and easier to drive at high speeds. Now, here's what made this upgrade so important. This car was a second quicker from 0 to 60 miles an hour than the Lexus LS400. It was clear that this upgrade didn't just help BMW catch up, it put them ahead of the pack. But that wasn't all. BMW did something you almost never saw in luxury sedans. They kept offering a manual transmission on some of their models. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but in a class full of cushy cruisers, it gave the 7 Series real credibility with people who still love the feeling of driving. But we can't talk about the 1993 740i without stepping inside, because that cabin was something special. It wasn't flashy or over-designed. Instead, it felt solid, confident, and quietly luxurious. Soft and inviting leather seats, thick wool carpet, and a simplistically elegant dash. It didn't scream for attention. It just made you feel like you were in something built to last. So why was this important? Well, Lexus had raised the bar so much, and BMW knew it had to respond. So the materials inside were top-notch, and everything felt tightly put together. And the features? For the early 90s, the 740i was loaded. Automatic climate control, power seats, power windows, it was all there. But here's the real magic of the 740i. It was still a true BMW at heart. So the 740i had the tech, it had the power. But how did it actually do once it hit the showroom floor? Well, When the 740i launched in 1993, it was stepping into a heated luxury car war. Just a few years earlier, Lexus had dropped a bomb on the industry with the LS400. The Lexus was quiet, smooth, and built with near-obsessive attention to detail. So of course, BMW had to respond fast. And that's where the 740i came in. It was a shot fired directly at Lexus. And BMW didn't just keep up, it pulled ahead. That new V8 paired with a modern 5-speed automatic, it made the 740i noticeably quicker than the LS400. And while the Lexus was praised for being quiet and effortless, some drivers felt it was way too calm. The BMW, on the other hand, had personality. It was more involving, more responsive, and more fun to drive. But Lexus wasn't the only rival in BMW's sights. The S-Class had always been the 7 Series' biggest rival, and in the early 90s, Mercedes had gone all out with their new W140 car. This thing was a fortress on wheels, bigger, heavier, and packed with innovations.
But here's the key difference. While the S-Class felt like a limo, the BMW was more like a driver's car. And that right there mattered to a lot of folks who didn't just want to be chauffeured. They wanted to enjoy the drive themselves. The steering was sharper, the suspension was tuned for handling, and behind the wheel, it just felt more connected. And most importantly, it was cheaper. The 740i wasn't cheap, but it came in well below the high-end Mercedes models. So when you added it all up, performance, tech, comfort, and cost, the 740i made a strong case for itself. By the early 90s, it was clear. The BMW 740i wasn't just catching up. It had become one of the best full-size sedans money could buy. It was the best of all worlds, a car that checked every box without ever feeling like it had to compromise. That's why the 1993 BMW 740i still holds a special place in the 7 Series family. It wasn't just built to compete, it was built to define.